Well, thank you for joining us. I'm Terry Kimball, and I am the president and CEO here at the Chandler Chamber, and we have a great topic for you today. I have with me Jill Hudson, attorney with Hudson Law Firm. Thank you so much for joining us. And I also want to do a shout out to the City of Chandler Industrial Development Authority for helping to make these programs possible for our business community. So, Jill, thank you for joining us. I want to tell our audience a little bit about you. And obviously, you're an attorney here in Chandler. And, I know that you're an adjunct professor at also Chandler Gilbert Community College. You're very involved in veterans advocacy and so forth. And I have this really long bio that's very impressive on you. You're also a proud member here at the Chamber, but I really want you to tell everybody a little bit about the background about you, because I certainly don't want to leave anything out. So, because it was very impressive, and I know that when you and I have spoken, I just want to learn more. So, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Terry. And of course, to the Chandler Chamber, I really, really appreciate this opportunity. I have a teacher's heart, and so a lot of this is really coming from an education perspective in our talk today about succession planning. Good. My background is, quite varied, like many professionals certainly, and they find their way through various steps. So I have an undergraduate business economics degree from the University of Arizona. I am a diehard Wildcat, and but I married a Sun Devil, so if that helps. Then I earned my law degree from Regent University School of Law in Virginia, took the Arizona bar in 1998, and started practicing here in Arizona with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. So I'm a former prosecutor. I prosecuted adult felony crimes ranging anywhere from simple drug possession all the way to armed robbery. And while I was still a prosecutor, I started teaching in the evenings at Chandler Gilbert Community College. This was 2001. And they were looking for attorneys who were licensed attorneys in Arizona to start teaching some classes for them in Arizona constitutional law, US constitutional law. So I've been with Chandler Gilbert and I've never left since 2001. I love the students. And again, just having that teacher's heart. So because of Chandler Gilbert, I've now, as you stated, I'm adjunct at other places too, kind of on as needed basis, including undergraduate and graduate level, MBA level classes out at Webster, which is held at Luke Air Force Base. So that's really fascinating. We're a veteran family, a Navy family, I should say. My husband actually will retire after 28 years in June as a Naval Supply Corps officer. So we keep very busy, and we are parents to two daughters. One's a freshman at, you can probably guess, the U of A, in pre-med biology. She loves it so far, even amidst COVID. She's doing very well in Tucson. And then we have a sophomore in high school, another daughter, and she's in the Chandler Unified School District. And that's actually why we moved to Chandler, was the high education, of course, the jobs and just everything booming in 1999. We knew we could have picked anywhere in the state, and we really wanted to stick to Chandler, or stay in Chandler. Yep. So that's a little snapshot.
I love it. And that's why I wanted you to tell that story, because sometimes I have to read these bios and it gets dry and dull. But anyhow, I'm going to turn off my camera and going to turn this over to you, because you have got a lot to share for us. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So I do have a PowerPoint for you all. I realize sometimes you maybe are zoomed out or PowerPointed, overload, but hopefully this will be a good resource for you. And if you want me to share this, you can certainly have that. I even have all the resources at the end that I used, and or additional resources for you to look up about succession planning. To also let you know that where I do practice, I have my own law firm. And so even though I'm a former prosecutor, I did start in 2014 my own estate planning firm, which includes wills, trusts, estates, probate, elder law, and veterans disability law. So that's actually what I do. And I am based in Chandler. I'm a mobile attorney. And even before COVID, that's what I did. My goal was to reach all of my clients wherever they were. I found that a lot of my clients, whether they were young, middle-aged, or elderly, really liked the fact of me coming to them, sitting around their kitchen table and being able to just talk about their estate plan, and especially though their life care planning, their advanced directives, etc. And this is exactly what succession planning also can be, is you are trying to figure out what to do. How do you want to turn your business into this, for the next generation? Who do you want to lead your business? And so what I like is to have you all kind of think about, you don't necessarily have to answer, you can in the chat box if you want to, but just a few questions for you to really think about, which is, have you ever created a succession plan for your business? And by the way, this is going to apply whether you have a family business or a non-family business. Okay, so have you created a succession plan? And if you have you recently reviewed your plan? That's another really important factor, is that it should be reviewed on an as needed basis, but a scheduled basis, truly, to make sure that it's exactly what you still want. Just like estate planning, you want to review that every 5 years or so to make sure it's fresh. Of course, we have life changes that come up. Obviously, same with succession planning for your business. So if I like to ask you to think about, if you have created a plan, 2A here says, what grade would you give your plan? Not anyone else giving the grade, but what grade would you give the plan? And then B would be, what grade would you give the execution of the plan? So of course we can all have a plan, right? Everyone can have a plan to do something, whether it's paint the house or lose weight or take 50 trips this year or next year. But did you execute it? Okay, did it actually get done? And so that's what I kind of want you to think about. And even if you have started a plan, or like number 3, if you have not created one, a succession plan, time is of the essence to start. And you don't have to wait until a major crisis or a major life event. You don't even have to wait just within a retirement window. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'll get to it when I have a 5-year window. Well, that actually would be wonderful, but you don't have to wait till then. And there can be, of course, major events that can occur, like we've learned with COVID, that perhaps the planning should have already occurred. So a few more questions to kind of think about here would be, if your CEO passes away suddenly, do you know who will take their place? Who do you have in mind already? Number 5, what if your top executives leave for another firm? That's a lot of brain trust. That is a lot of skill that perhaps you have managed for them to have, perhaps the training. You've poured a lot of resources into them, and you really don't want them to leave necessarily. You want to keep them. 6, do you have the next generation of leaders ready to fill those roles? And who are those people going to be? So these are not easy questions. This is not going to be something you can do, in one day. And so we'll see in a few slides where there's actually kind of a timeline for planning. So the talk is going to be just these 4 main areas. What is a business succession plan? Who should create this plan? When should you create it, and how? Okay, so very, very important factors here: the who, what, when, and how. And here we go. Let's jump into what actually is a business succession plan. Well, it really comes down to these decisions about the who will take over your business, whether it's upon retirement, death, and or disability. And it's a series of decisions. So it's not just one, it's a series of decisions that make up this plan. And the plan would actually become a document that you can work with. It would be a document to add to expand, to share, but it would be a guide. So the succession plan is actually going to be a guide for everyone through this change of ownership, with step-by-step instructions, which, by the way, you get to have the say in. You get to have that control in. And that's really key, especially If you are the person and or persons that have helped started that business, have cultivated and grown that business, it's really huge. It becomes as if it's almost, a child, right? That's your legacy. Okay, so what should a plan include? So we're going to see this list at the end as well. It's actually kind of a great checklist just to kind of think about here. But the plan should include a timeline when it should take place. Again, you don't want to be waiting until it's urgent, and then you feel rushed or stressed. You can actually plan this at any time. For a lot of attorneys, and myself included, I do have a succession plan just on the off chance something does happen to me, an urgent medical emergency, etc., or even, God forbid, death. I do have a succession plan already, even though I'm not anywhere closer thinking about retiring at this point. So who, again, that list of who would be your potential successors. You want to think about their strengths, what you think they would be the best at in terms of their role, and the order of consideration. Who would you like to fill certain positions? And you really should be having some discussions and open communication with, look at all these people here, employees, customers, family, stakeholders. All of the stakeholders are really key. They usually get forgotten many times, but this could be a great opportunity to really get a pulse of what people are perhaps hoping for. Maybe you've thought about somebody that would take over and they are the perfect person in your mind, and then you sit down and talk with them and they have no desire at all to take over or have leadership in that capacity. So this is a good time to talk about that. And of course, the family, especially if it's a family business and or if family has been a key part and starting that. A couple more items on what it should include. Of course, the standard operating procedures, everything, of course, that would include the handbooks, procedures, training, everything would be in this plan as well. Also, the valuation. You want to make sure that your business does get evaluated for the real, true, fair market value of the business. And how will it be funded? The succession, and of course, including tax planning. We'll talk a little bit about who those players would be, those professionals that you could meet with to help assist you with that. But it will have an expense to it. But just like anything with planning, the money spent now will pay off in the future. And of course, you're going to have to provide for contingencies, especially such as what we've been going through with COVID. A really important, I think, reminder of why this is really key and where business can be interrupted and changed so quickly. And most people did not have a plan. They had no idea what to do in the midst of something like the COVID pandemic. The second key element here would be who should create a business succession plan. Who? Well, every business needs a succession plan. To not only ensure that the operation continues, but really look at that second part there. So clients don't experience a disruption in service. I mean, I know what it's like to have my own business. It's just my law firm. It's just me. I'm the only employee at this time, but I know how much work I've put in for just this smaller business. And I know and I understand and I appreciate how much effort most of you, all of you have put in. If you're more than just one employee, you do not want to lose all of that momentum, all of that work that you have put in. This is something that is very important that you probably most likely want to continue. And so what type of business? Well, certainly it does say every business, but really and specifically, I think if you have if your business has a lot of complex processes, you definitely want to look at a succession plan because there's so many moving parts. And if you employ more than just yourself. However, I'm not trying, to talk out of two sides here. I still believe everybody, even if you are just a one-person business, sole practitioner, etc., that you would also do a succession plan just in case. It can't hurt. It just cannot hurt. And it does give you peace of mind. And then also if your business has repeat clients and ongoing contracts, really important again to keep that continuity going. Also, of course, key, if you already have a successor in mind, this would be a perfect time if you're already thinking about that. And I love this quote here that I found. Jim Skinner, former CEO of McDonald's, he was known to tell managers, quote, "Give me the names of 2 people who could succeed you." And what this ended up doing, as the article was saying I read, is that it continued this culture of succession planning. So it was already embedded. And this is, I think, really important. So if you've never had the discussion or you've maybe just touched on the discussion, I think this is a great reminder to have that discussion, and start asking people who would you think, or who would you like to succeed you? Perhaps not in a threatening manner, such as, okay, we're going to replace you, give me 2 names. Certainly it would be in the spirit of succession planning and hopefully to retain the loyalty of those employees. Okay, how about when? When? Well, just like we talked about already, we hopefully have learned some valuable lessons from COVID, that you should not wait until planning for perhaps even just retirement age, and or you should not wait too late. I should just say, don't wait to the last minute. And just like as with estate planning, the sooner the better, to have a contingency plan, to have a succession plan. And by the way, you can do both at the same time. You can do a contingency plan, just like for planning for such as COVID, et cetera, and or the succession plan at the same time. And also it helps, like this last point here, is that should something unexpected happen, a plan can help reduce chaos and monetary loss. And I think, again, just going back to how much you have put into it, you really want to keep that going. Also, if you do have a family-owned business, and this is targeting that specifically, we know that family dynamics change. And there's a lot of really great articles, and I have these at the end for resources, but there's a lot of good articles that talk about the assumed family heir, right, to the business, that it's definitely going to be the firstborn, either son of this family or the firstborn daughter of this family. They're just going to step right into the role. They've been doing it since they were 11, helping out. But maybe that's not the right person. Maybe they aren't the perfect, well, no, nothing is perfect, but maybe they are not the ideal candidate, I should say, to take over and or to fill certain positions. So you do want to look at that family dynamic. You do want to have those very frank and sometimes difficult discussions. And then this is going to include for both new succession plans and for evaluating current plans. Maybe you already have one. You want to look at company changes, tax law updates, perhaps changes in valuation of your business. How about new industry developments? Anything like that that would actually cause you to want to make amendments to it or create a brand new one, okay? And at the very least, you would want to start at least 5 years before retirement, okay? At least. And again, we can't always control when that would be. So that's why I always like to tell everyone, do it now. Do it while you're thinking about it, just like you would an estate plan. Don't wait until it's absolutely necessary and you're stressed with the planning. Okay, the last main point would be how to create it. Well, you can do it on your own. There's a lot of really great materials out there that you can find and start to kind of process that, or you can seek out professionals, or of course a combination of the two. So who would these professionals be? Certainly CPAs, okay? Certified public accountants would be absolutely excellent. Any business, commercial, tax, estate planning attorney, and or business mentors, somebody perhaps who has already done that. Reach out, see who has, talk to them. Maybe they will mentor you in this succession planning. I think that would be a fantastic opportunity for many businesses. And then also, because there will be an expense to this, you want to negotiate these fees with these professionals in advance, because you want to be able to try to budget, okay, each phase of this planning. So be open, upfront, let them know what your goals are, and see what kind of fees you could perhaps negotiate, and not have to break the budget. And then also, again, just to kind of remind everyone, you want to spend time discussing this process. You're not going to be necessarily alone in this. You want to talk to family, executive employees, stakeholders, right? Your bank, other professionals. Certainly spend that time to think about it and to plan it. And again, this is not going to be overnight. So you actually can create a timeline. One of the articles actually was suggesting that you take 3 to 4 months to actually develop it, think about it, talk about it, and that the whole process, though, takes about a year if it's a really solid, legitimate succession plan. Because again, there can be so many different factors and stakeholders and employees, obviously, to take into consideration. So what I've done here is I've just included the little list here, the A through G that we've already looked at in terms of what should be included. So again, you can just reference back on kind of the idea of a checklist of what you would want in that plan. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, only because we looked at the 4, right? The what, the when, the how, okay, and the who. But there are 5 ways actually you can transfer ownership. You can actually transfer it to a co-owner. Certainly that would make some sense, right? And have those discussions. How about an heir? So as part of my estate planning, I do help clients who have their own business, whether it's as a sole proprietorship all the way up to, they're in a corporation or an S corp or whatever the case may be, and everything in between. And so they may want to assign their business interests through their trust. And so I do assist them with that. And that's a really important piece on who they want to give that business to and or their shares to. So of course it can be somebody that you are related to, or, maybe not, the case may be, but you know who they are. So at death, it would transfer, and or at retirement. So that's something to think about. How about a key employee may want to actually purchase the business? You may want to consider selling to them, an outside party, and maybe the company itself. Perhaps, you have a business with multiple owners. Maybe you want to sell that ownership interest back to the company. Perhaps the company has a plan already to allow for that. I could give you some peace of mind there. So what can succession planning do? It can help, of course, bring your business clarity. It can help provide organization. And it can assist, of course, in articulating the changing dynamics. And that's whether or not it's family owned. There's always going to be change in business, like we've, of course, experienced this past year and a half. And of course, you want to be able to work effectively, right? When there is a possible business disruption, you want to have the contingency, you want to have the succession planning, and you want everything that you've worked so hard for to be able to transfer and again, leave that legacy. So when is the best time? Really, it truly is now to start it, to think about that, especially if you're going to take it very methodically and slow. It can be about a year for really proper planning and even for budgeting, of course, as well. And then there's 2 pages of resources here, a couple of them from the Harvard Business Review, Kiplinger, and then some additional ones as well, if you wanted to take a look at that. And so, Terry, I'm already at the question and comments. I think that was probably only about 15 minutes or so, but is there anything you want me to?
I have some questions.
Okay, great.
So, all right. So let's say you're starting to get all this in line. Is in the succession planning component too, this can also help with, let's say you're selling the business in that business transition. So can you talk a little bit about whether you're going to sell it to the employees or you're going to sell it to like a venture capital company, or can you dive into a little bit about that?
Sure. So that's really going to come down to, in my opinion, on what the professionals around you are going to recommend what's best for you and or your company. A lot of it would be based on, of course, the valuation. Who do you want to run your company? Who do you want to run the ship? it's really going to come down to a matter of personal preference. So it's hard to give a one size fits all answer, because you may want to keep it in-house, right? You may want to just only be able to sell it, or have people that you know, that you've worked with, that you've cultivated, to take over, if that makes sense. So I really would suggest that it would be wise to sit down and talk to either business mentors who have done it before, and or a CPA, somebody that they trust, because there can be, of course, tax consequences as well.
Okay. So let's say I'm a 5-person business. I have, there's myself, I've got another family member and a couple of employees. The employees are not in any type of position to be able to sell to. So I put it out there for my company to be sold. One of the big things in negotiating this, and because whether you're on, what that next succession plan is, because you said it, you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into this organization. You don't want to see it go by the wayside, but then you also have the anxiety from your employee component on, oh my gosh, the business is going to be selling. I'm not going to be here. So I'm going to give my notice and go find something else, because you also don't want that to happen.
No, you don't. And I think the best mode for this, and what I have seen, is to actually be open and honest, especially as you say, if it's a 5-employee company and it's small. You want to be open. You want to tell them what's going on. You give them an opportunity, to give them some time, of course, to switch their plans, to look for something else, rather than, just having the rug pulled from underneath them. But you do bring up some really good points in that, where you're right. Even if it's not conducive for that employee or a few employees to purchase it, that maybe there would be a chance for them to stay on, right? So if there's a complete, a third party that buys the business, can that discussion be that these employees would be allowed to perhaps interview and stay on, is a very good point. But the best way for that to come out is to have that, those talks, to have those discussions.
So one of the other things, and please feel free to put your questions in the chat. I know that I have a company here in town that reached out to me, and he is planning on retiring within the next year and wants me to sit down with his successor and how to get him ingrained in the community and so forth. And he's already kind of got it planned out, who he wants that to be. It's a long time standing employee and so forth. Any suggestions, or is that a good way to do it, or what would you change?
Oh, I think that's excellent, especially going through the Chandler Chamber and all of the connections. I mean, just reach out, and really, the idea that somebody would want to be talking about it is fantastic. And just getting, again, that communication started, and then have other people who perhaps would be interested, kind of like this, a panel like this, and then just increase that for perhaps partnering up. And again, having like a business mentor. But yes, that transition will be perhaps a little bit difficult if that, the new owner, if you will, has not been doing what the owner has done. It would actually also behoove them to start the process earlier by, kind of grooming that future employee, or future, if you will, CEO, right? Not future employee, I'm sorry, future executive, future owner, to start doing it now, the both of them, or several of them, taking them to some chamber events, going and meeting other business people in the community, getting them to know, but kind of passing the torch while they're with them. I know early on, right out of college, this was way back in 1991, I was working for a small business in Tucson. I was hired as an inside sales manager for a temporary staffing service. And the owner of that, the staffing service, he would take us every Wednesday morning to a chamber breakfast in Tucson. And he wanted us to talk to all of the business owners. And I was fresh out of college. I was 21 years old. I had no idea what was going on. So, it's one thing to be book smart, and then, of course, to apply it. but it was life altering. It was wonderful. And he actually, as part of our job, made us introduce ourselves and meet someone new every single meeting. That's, when you asked that question, it just really dawned on me that, oh my gosh, yes, what a wonderful tool that I was given. But that's what I would suggest for now, especially for succession planning, helping them get into the community and start early, not wait to that 1-year window or just 5-year window.
Yep. So one of the questions that came up is, I'm a sole owner operator of my business, married with no kids. If my husband has no desire to continue the business I have and I have no succession plan, would he become the owner in the event of my death?
He would only if he wanted to. Otherwise, he would actually be the one, if he survived you, he would be the one that would actually have to sell it, or he would be the one to, whatever the case may be, if he wanted to close it down. I have a lot of clients who say, yeah, it's just going to end with me. I don't want to do anything after it. My kids don't want it. No one wants it. We're just going to stop it. So that's in the trust, actually, that we will create. So it's very clear what their wishes are. So if somebody were to challenge it and say, oh no, she promised me the business, that we're going to take care of that aspect. But yes, the surviving spouse will have to actually take care of, let's say, unwinding it, dissolving it, liquidating it. But unless you have, of course, a plan. And if you have a plan and you know if somebody's interested or wants to purchase it, then they could. But you're absolutely right. The husband doesn't have to be the owner and take on the company.
One of the other things, and I'll share this with you, early on, and I am a certified business counselor as well. But one of my first people that we encountered back when I was in Michigan, and it was a flower shop that wanted to sell. The kids did not want to take over the business. They had some health concerns that was the reason why they needed to sell. And one of the really frustrating things was because for many years, it was a cash business. And so they weren't going through the proper steps to pay the owners, so that when they went to sell, thinking they were going to have this money to help with medical and whatever, the market value wasn't there. They didn't have the paperwork. Can you touch on that a little bit, on why that's, and again, we recommended a CPA and so forth. Mm-hmm. That's not but that's a real life issue.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. And unfortunately, I've seen this a lot. I've seen this way too many times. It's disheartening, actually. This is why it's so important to reach out to people who would know a lot more than we do. And again, even if it's going to cost $500 or $1,000 to sit down with a few professionals, such as you mentioned, a CPA or a business consultant, business attorney, to really make sure that you do have a proper structure, proper financial structure, tax structure, and of course the business valuation. Because had they, let's say, had gone through the process of the business valuation, they would have known there was nothing perhaps there. So that, even in talking about, let's say, business insurance, something like that could really help kind of cover that potential for that issue. But no, that is a really, really good point. And again, it happens way too often.
So this is the other thing that sometimes we hear. People, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but we had a client that was a dentist and was really good at what they did, but didn't have the expertise to run that business. They were learning as they were growing, and they had a vested interest in it.
Right.
So how do you incorporate that into a succession plan?
Well, I definitely, they would want to take a step back. Perhaps the first step would be to hire and talk to, maybe they don't want to hire, but maybe they want to talk to somebody who was well-versed in managing a business, who, a lot of attorneys that I know, they do not run the office part at all. They are only doing the law work, as they say, right? And like the dentist would be just doing the dental work, and then they hire somebody out to do that office managing. that would be really key and crucial, I think, to sit down with somebody. If they don't necessarily want to hire out, it should be part of that discussion for the succession plan that there is no office staff, or there will be a lot of work at that transfer, because it goes with the person. But you bring up a great point, Terry, which is a lot of us, and I myself included in this, and this is a kind of a weakness, is it's a lot of it's in my head. A lot of it's, like we all do, we know what's going on. But if I had to turn over that, hand over that torch, that would be very difficult because of how much is actually just, in my head in any given day. So I'm getting a lot better as to putting in processes myself, making sure that if, God forbid something did happen to me, that it would be a smooth transition to the succession plan, and to the other attorneys that have agreed to take over my client base, and take over my law firm. But you're absolutely right. You do have to create the processes. I would recommend, though, the bigger they grow, that if they want to be able to spend more time being a dentist and or an attorney or whatever the case may be, that they do hire a business manager for sure.
Absolutely. So one of the other questions, resources on how and where to put your business up for sale. I know that there's restaurant brokers if it's a restaurant business, or there's certain types of brokers, but you also want to make those decisions yourself too on what's going to be the best course or avenue. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, and I don't have an absolute answer for that. What I can do, though, is get you more resources on the specifics for, like you said, there's certain industries,
Mhm.
and there would be brokers that are going to be, come highly recommended, or sometimes not, as the case may be. I definitely would, again, talk to as many people as you can, especially through, let's say, the chamber, to see who they've used, to see who works or doesn't work. But yes, there are going to be professionals, by the way, usually industry specific, for succession planning to try to sell the business. That is a very good point. You don't want to speak to somebody who says, "Oh, I handle, any kind, all types." I would shy away from that, only because every single business is going to have of course, as we know, specificity. And you want to have somebody who's going to be very sensitive to that specificity for the client base.
Well, and the other thing is to consider, whether, obviously a business broker is going to be one of the key people, obviously, that they're going to want to engage with. But the other thing is, whether they own their building, or if it's a service business, or if you lease, how long is that term of the lease? If you're not there, how are you going to be able to stay there? People are used to coming to where, we all pick locations sometimes, depending on what type of business it is, for very specific reasons.
Exactly. That is a very, very good point. And all of that can be brought out in this communication, right? In looking at, what do I need? What do I need to be thinking about? How am I going to turn this over? You're right. Do we want to have a plan maybe to own the business, or I'm sorry, to own the building, or is that not, conducive to our plans? So these are all very, very difficult questions, which again, you can't really answer, in one day, and it would be part of that timeline.
Well, and I know there's different parameters also with, for instance, like service types of business, because if you've built your reputation on that, or if you're, a hairdresser, those types of things, people come to you, some types of businesses, just for who they're dealing with. We do business with
Correct.
people that we know, like, and trust. And how do you factor that in when you're trying to sell a business or a succession plan?
Absolutely. That's the answer, right? The lawyer answer, which is, it depends. I mean, you're absolutely right. Are you driven by the person? Are they coming to you? Right. Hairdresser, very personalized, and or even a dentist. I mean, personally, I love the one we go to. We've gone for, 15 years. And that is a really good point. And how are you going to be able to keep that business going? And of course, there's the business book, right? To sell the book of clients, to sell the book of business. A lot of people are going to be willing to take a look at that. And some clients will go on to the next one just because there was a referral, right? Because the person you trust so much says, hey, this is who's going to actually take over. Again, that's part of that communication. If you guys recall, in the slide, it did say to even talk to the clients, talk to all the stakeholders that you can about what's coming, especially if you're in that narrow window and you're going to retire, let's say within the 5 years, to start telling these clients, this is the plan. We're not going to leave you completely, perhaps high and dry. Here's who we're going to put in place, and let's see if you develop a rapport with them. So I know a client or a service that I was actually using, they did that very same thing, and it was wonderful. And because they took the time to actually talk to me and others about that plan, my loyalty went to that new person. And I didn't know that person, but for the other owner. So it worked. I loved it.
That's great. And I'm not sure that question on the resources and how and where to put your business up for sale. Those are, I don't know if it's a brick and mortar or a service or whatever, but we can help kind of guide you with that too. Couple of other questions. On your slide, you said your banker. Would that be, why would your banker be involved? Because so much now with a business, you're doing everything online.
Well, again, it's going to be if you want that person, and or if they have been pivotal in your development and in your success, I should say, maybe you want them involved in those next step planning, especially if you've developed a really good personal rapport with your banker. It would be wise to perhaps just think about them in your list. It's not an absolute, but just one of the potential professionals that you may want to sit down with, and maybe they can even help you with the referrals for the valuation, etc.
All right. So ask me that's a really good point, because you want a really good business evaluation. That's going to be critical, whether you're selling it or, handing it down. You had also mentioned that should a financial planner, your personal financial planner, be involved in any of these conversations?
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. I probably should have included that right next to CPA. Yes, your certified financial planner absolutely has a place in this. They're going to know your snapshot that other professionals will not know, and it would be great to be able to have, of course, the CFP and the CPA in on that same conversation, so that they know and to help you with that planning. Absolutely.
Okay. And then, so let's say I'm a company and I am working on bringing somebody else up within the company to kind of take over as that succession. Do you have an internal agreement with that individual?
Well, you certainly could. I think it would be wise to sit down initially. And again, this is where it's going to cost some money up front. But it would be wise to sit down with an attorney who specializes in this, along with, let's say, a business broker, so that you know exactly what the best way to protect yourself would be. And of course, they would want to have that protection too. So, if you're making a promise, well, if it's just an oral promise, it's not going to be worth anything unless, of course, it's put into writing. So if I'm the person coming in, I would definitely want a contract in writing, just to go over all of the nuances and what the potentials are going to be. So even potential, pitfalls. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It would, you would want to sit down with somebody who is well versed in that. I wouldn't advise finding, a template contract online. I would definitely want to go seek out a professional who can give you the most tailored and personalized contract. And again, it's going to cost a little bit of money. So you do want to plan for this in your budget, and a perfect, of course, where the certified financial planner would come in to help you with that.
Another question, I'm going back to the person that had asked about the husband, and he is doesn't want to be involved with the business, but he would be responsible for selling it or or dissolving it. Can you talk a little bit about the steps on dissolving a business? Because if it's not done right, you and your loved ones may have stiff penalties.
Right. So I've not actually ever helped anyone with that
Oh,
specifically.
okay.
So in terms of those formalities, I can't really speak on
Okay.
any expertise, but I certainly, again, can share resources on who you can reach out to. I would be happy to actually, of course, send that to you to share. But the most important part of it is you're absolutely right. I'll just kind of piggyback on what you said, is that you can get into a lot of trouble. You can face all kinds of consequences. Taxes for certain can really become an issue if it's not done properly. Fines, and not contacting the right agencies at the specific time frames are going to be key. So yeah, they're going to need to reach out, hire the right people, and make sure, again, that they are doing everything they're supposed to do to dissolve that properly, because it is a process. The whole dissolution of a company and terminating of a company can be a process, especially if it's a larger company or corporation.
So without divulging any names or that, what is a situation on a succession plan that somebody did not have done that really went wrong that you had to step in and help?
Well, unfortunately, they had a business, and in their trust, they gave it to their son, and we assigned it through the trust, and they passed away. The son wanted nothing to do with it. This was, I mean, let me back up. So this was before I got involved in succession planning and helping and talking. And so the son did not want it. So it actually went away. The business just went away. Nobody was interested. They thought it was just too confusing, too convoluted. So that of course can be a nightmare. The other one that I did help and assist with, which had a little more of a positive outcome, was again going to what I was kind of referencing before, is that it's not necessarily an automatic that a family member will get to take over or should take over. And I encouraged them to sit down and talk to, they said, oh, it's definitely going to be, our firstborn, our daughter. She has an MBA and she's been working on this for her whole life. And this is the one that started, working in the office at 11. She's definitely going to be the one. Well, I said, well, knowing what I'd experienced, the few years back with the son and in the trust, I said, well, have you talked to her? Have you, had that conversation, a real heart to heart about it? Well, no, we just know, we just assumed. I just said, please, let me just tell you the generic, no names, just let me tell you what happened. So they did. They sat down with her, and she told them, she said, I didn't want to tell you, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to take over, but I will help you find the right people to do so. That is success in a succession plan. It's just really being open to communication. And what's so heart-wrenching for me is I see this in estate planning as well. A lot of my clients, and of course I respect absolutely whatever their wishes are, okay, as long as it's legal, okay, that's fine, I respect their wishes. But a lot of my clients do not want to talk to their children about their end of life care planning, their advanced directives, and definitely their estate. I understand the estate part to a point, but when you're talking about a business succession plan that may involve them anyway, and you're assuming, you have to have those conversations. You just have to. So if that helps, yeah, there can be some, pretty negative consequences to that, but some work out.
I have to tell you, and this is more of a personal, but obviously we've been here in Arizona many years, and I'm the eldest of 5 children. My mother is up there in age, and my mother, she has a will and all of those necessary documents that she had. Well, we've been out here in Arizona, and I get this call. They had to take my mother to the emergency room, and I was her medical power of attorney. And I said, Mom, well, so we got through it and she was fine. She was back at home. I said, Mom, why on earth do you have me as your medical power of attorney? She says, you're my oldest child. I said, Mother, I live 3,000 miles away from you. You need to get, I have 4 other siblings that live within a 10-minute radius. And she was afraid to bring that up to me because she didn't want or to remove me off of there because she, for whatever reason in her head, I was the eldest child. And I've always kind of taken care of those things, but the proximity didn't make sense. And so again, and then my other siblings are like, well, you're the one that's best to handle it. Well, you need to, we need to get all on the same page. So that's when we had the big family conference. But you're right. People don't know how to start those conversations. Right. So, right. Wow. Jill, you have been a fountain of knowledge. And I really appreciate that. If you have further questions or want to follow up with Jill on particulars regarding yours, Jill, can you just repeat your website and how they can get a hold of you?
Oh, sure. In fact, if this helps, I'll share this last slide, which of course is my thank you to you all. There's my website, or not website, I'm sorry. It's not operational just yet. It's being reworked, but my email, jill.hudson@hudsonlawaz.com. Of course, you can call me anytime too. That phone number, 480-369-4802. I also want to just make mention on that last note you just said. I have clients that ask me if I'm willing to sit in on discussions, especially their family discussions, and would I be that maybe mediator, if you will, without the formal mediator type, but would I be willing to actually sit there and ask questions directed by my client? And of course I am. I'm happy to do it. And it's all part of that peace of mind, which I'm a huge fan of, is really creating a peace of mind for not just, of course, estate planning, but succession planning for your business and your life. So they really can go hand in hand.
It does need to. So great point. And I know everybody on the call today, and Jill, we'll go ahead and if we could share, we'll share your materials and that, and this recording will be available. But I just want to thank you again. I want to thank everybody for joining us. This is a very tough conversation, but even just having this, sparking these questions. Well, what about this? What about that? There's no dumb question. You just have to get out there and ask it and go with your gut. You are the best person to know what's best. And so thank you again. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the City of Chandler Industrial Development Authority for continuing the use of these programs. We really appreciate that. And next week, join us at 10 o'clock. We have information on Shut Up and Shoot, how to incorporate video into your business. So by J2 Media, and I love them. We use them quite a bit, and they are a great resource right here in our community. So thank you again. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.